Hello, and welcome to week 38, book 38. This one is Benjamin Labatut, When We Cease to Understand the World. Um, this is a very, very interesting and strange little book. Um, what it what it is about scientific discoveries, particularly those that led to relativity and quantum mechanics and the sort of revolution in science that happens in the early modern period. So Heisenberg is in here, um, Schrodinger is in here, and other people like that are in here. Um, but it begins with in a medical examination on the eve of the Nuremberg trials, the doctors found the nails of Hermann Goring's fingers and toes stained a furious red, the consequences of its addiction to dihydrocodeine, and an analgesic of which he took more than 100 pills a day. Um, and you're thinking, okay, what's that to do with science? Well, the whole point of the book is that science doesn't exist in a vacuum, that science is automatically connected to the politics and to the reality of the world. So remember, relativity and quantum mechanics leads to the atomic bomb, and it leads to other problems and other things. Now, he's not trying to say that science is necessarily negative. What he's doing is he's connecting these things that may seem abstract and out there, way beyond uh, any kind of practical reality, and how they start, and when they do start to have practical reality, what becomes of them. That science creates this technology, and this technology exists in the world, can be used for good or bad. Um, and it also deals a lot with the kinds of people who come up with these amazing discoveries. Now, in his telling of it, a lot of these people were just out of their minds. They were so focused on math, on the purity of math or of science, of physics, of trying to understand how the world works, that they literally went crazy, either temporarily or perhaps entirely. And, and the book itself is kind of playing with this because parts of it are almost like a true history book, and other parts of it are almost completely fictional. And he blurs the lines between the two. Like, for instance, Heisenberg, in the time when he was coming up with his famous equation, was basically out of his mind, according to this. He was sick. He was just, working long days, and nearly died, and he was having fever dreams. And this has his fever dreams in it. But we don't know what the content of his fever dreams really were. The fever dreams that he attributes to Heisenberg are plausible in a psychological sense, particularly for fiction. But is it psychologically true? We don't know, and that's not even the point of well, I found myself after reading this book, I got like, I don't know, even like that far into it, and I had to go start looking things up and find out about these things. You know, I have enough of a science background that I knew who Heisenberg was, I knew who um, Schrodinger was. Um, but the person that he spends the most time with towards the end of the book is, who is this guy? Um, Grothendieck, Alexander Grothendieck. No idea who that was. No idea. And so I had to look him up, and I thought at first that he just made the guy up. And I thought at first, after I determined the guy was real, I thought, okay, what you're telling me about this guy, that can't be true. but it is. This guy was absolutely a brilliant mathematician, but just off his nut entirely in terms of how society expects someone to behave. Towards the end of his life, he just started to avoid people. He would go live in a hovel and basically just, live like a beggar and write these massive tomes that dealt with math sometimes, and then sometimes spiritual things and whatnot. And okay, so what did he do that's so important to math? Well, I don't remember, to be honest with you, but it does deal with Gordon dealt with what his name is, Grothendieck. What he dealt with was transformative of the way math was thought of at the time, and extremely important in that sense. One of the most brilliant mathematicians of the 20th century, apparently. Now, he doesn't talk about Newton in this book, but I recently, completely unconnected with this, gotten interested in a little bit more about Newton, and Newton fits the same kind of isolated genius. Although once Newton became famous, he became kind of a establishment jerk in many ways. I mean, there's no doubt that Newton was brilliant. I don't think anyone can say he wasn't, but he also became kind of very protective of his own legacy and very self-centered, and used his position to uh, discredit his anyone he didn't like, his rivals, anyone he didn't care for whatever reason, and sometimes extremely unfairly. But he was legitimately brilliant, and that is one thing. Brilliant people, as this book, not about Newton, but about other people, clearly demonstrates, brilliant people sometimes just have, flawed aspects of their personality as well. And the people in this book certainly do. But like I said, parts of it are very factual, like that very beginning bit. That's very factual. That's very true. What he says about Hermann Goring is completely true. He did have this redness in his fingers and toes because he was addicted to this drug. Now, this part is called Prussian blue, and it deals with the creation of Prussian blue, the color, and how Prussian blue was created, and how Prussian blue is actually connected to the process of making the gas that was used in the camps like Auschwitz. Um, so, you know, this is um, this is something that obviously is core to what he's talking about, because the people who are talking about Prussian blue were not interested in that application. But one of the guys who helped develop this also was somebody who in World War One would go around on the German side and help direct where um, would help direct where gas attacks would go. And so, this was used for an obviously evil purpose. Okay, so enough about this book for now. I just want to tell you that yes, it's a very, very interesting book. It's short, but actually I found it to be a harder read than you would think. Um, the fiction part was actually the harder part to read. The nonfiction part was fascinating and interesting, but the more fictional parts were more difficult to read. And I don't know why that was, but that's just the way I found it. But good book, definitely good book. But despite its short length, under 200 pages, I would say this is going to take a little bit of time and effort, because it's just not that easy of a read in some respects.